The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
Is the Morning Sports Desk on a Friday, the 20th of December. CJ Baumgartner with you, Corey Tackman over there.
Michael Jackson Morning Sports Desk. It's the Michael Jackson Morning Sports Desk.
Oh, it is? Well, that's good.
Shimona. I don't know why Michael Jackson's got some great songs. It's too bad he's weird.
Yeah, and
Could say that about a few professional musicians of late.
turns out in the history of professional famous people, they're kind of weird. Spanning eons.
Unfortunately for them is they're famous, because there's lots of weird people who aren't famous who just get to be weird their whole lives.
Well, yeah, but they don't get to be rich, so.
Calling them weird is an understatement, by the way. I'm totally aware that calling R. Kelly weird is probably not a fair equation.
Hold on, let me draft my legal papers. We had the Morning Sports Desk. He's very, you gotta, it's the Pat McAfee show. Every time they say something, they'll go, allegedly.
Yeah.
That's us. A lot of, it's,
as Norm Macdonald would say, really.
As we wrap up December, get into January on the Morning Sports Desk, kind of get into that Christmas time. I know some schools have half days today. Everybody's kind of getting ready for Christmas break, which is on a Wednesday, which is probably the worst time Christmas can be on, logistically speaking, because it's just too far away from either side of the weekend.
I have thoughts on this. I'm glad you brought this up, because I actually have I fleshed this out. For adult life, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird spot for it to be. But personally, my family, I'm not from around here, so we have to travel for Christmas.
Yeah.
For Christmas Day to fall in the middle of the week, so that way the weekend before we can go do something with one family, and then in the middle of the week do our own thing, and then the following weekend do a Christmas thing with the other family. It's actually spaced out perfectly. I think I might actually prefer this, because otherwise you're talking about, if it's on the weekend, it's like, I got to do this on this day, and then peace out. We got to get in the car because we got to go to another thing. And then when are we going to squeeze? Like, we're very fortunate too. Like both sides of the family, like, you guys have your own family now. You need to do your own things. When can we make it work elsewhere with extended families? So they've been really great from that perspective, but this is way easier for us personally to handle at our house, because we got to drive all over this freaking state.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm in the same boat with you. I got to leave the state tomorrow morning. We're driving down to good old Pepin, Wisconsin.
Beautiful Pepin, Wisconsin.
Got the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather give credit to Pepin than give credit to Mankato for anything that that Laura Ingalls has done. So
yeah, but as long as you don't hold out on Walnut Grove, like, let Walnut Grove let them have their thing in Laura Ingalls Wilder lore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's okay. They can have that one. Yeah. So that's where we're doing our family Christmas. It's the same thing. Like, we're doing it this weekend. And then it kind of just like, you get that one out of the way. That's the only one we really have to travel for. And then it's all local. And then we can kind of spread things out a little bit, which makes it, which does make it help. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is kind of the flip side of the coin of, like, logistically it's weird, but it also just opens up so much more room around Christmas adjacent time to, like, hold.
For, like, your everyday life in the middle of the week is a mess. It just messes up the work week, and 2 weeks in a row, really, because New Year's is 7 days later. It's just kind of a garbage. I guess, though, you could, if it happens on a Monday, Christmas, New Year's would fall on a Monday. You really only get a week.
Yeah.
But when Christmas falls in the middle of the week, the Monday before is a wash. And kind of the Friday afternoon, like, now you get 2 full weeks of work being like, yeah.
Inside baseball for us, our boss is out, like, after today, is out for, like, the rest of the year for that reason. Like, it's just
yeah.
Well, so, and by extension, that means, like,
physically we'll be here.
We'll be here physically, but in spirit, we're somewhere else.
anywhere else.
Anywhere else. But I will say, going back to family Christmases, in fact, there's going to be somebody who you're going to see tonight that's actually going to be at that. Well, probably not actually. Some are going to be at that family Christmas.
Sure.
Henning Hornets are playing
Yes.
tonight, Parkers Prairie. You have the game. What are we thinking here? What's it look like? Give us some deets. Spill the tea.
I'm just looking forward to. This will be my first boys basketball game of the year. I've had 3 girls basketball games so far, so it'll just be nice to be able to see the other side of things. 7:00 pregame, 7:15 tip scheduled for the Superstation K106, Superstation K106 app, WadenaRadio.com. For all your sports coverage, follow Sports Cow on Facebook. The bell cow of Central Minnesota high school sports is the Sports Cow on Facebook. Moo. So, whatever, teams are whatever, and it's early and whatever, and we got to, get to Christmas and then we see what happens, blah, 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 blah. Minnesota Scores has records and schedules for all teams going back to the 02-03 season.
Yeah.
And we have often, CJ, talked about these teams that have a really nice rivalry going, even though they're not in the same conference.
Right.
We talked about Sabika and Pine River Bacchus was a matchup that I had. You had one that, forgive me, I can't remember off the top of my head, that this is just a matchup that's really fun.
Was it Wadena, Deer Creek, Park Rapids area, something like that?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Despite not being in the same conference, this is another one. Henning and Parkers Prairie, in particular, boys basketball, they play once a year going back to the 02 and 03 season, probably farther back than that. But that's how far the database on Minnesota Scores goes. CJ, with 1 year missing on Minnesota Scores, I think it was the 14-15 season that no scores are in.
Okay.
What do you think the all-time record between Henning and Parkers Prairie is going back to that 02-03 season?
Well, the way you're setting this up, so how many matchups would that be? Like on a number?
Well, it would be 23, but 22 because one of those years is missing.
Okay, so I'm going to go 11 and 11 based on the way you're setting this up.
It's very, very good. Henning leads the series 12-10.
Oh, okay. All right. I like it.
And with, again, 1 year is missing, so it's either 13-10 or 12-11. So I guess it's 23 seasons. My bad.
Sure.
But I mean, it's right. It's right there. And what's funny is when you look at it, the missing year comes off of, it was, I think, 5 straight victories, 5 years in a row of victories for Henning, and 4 straight victories in a row for Parkers Prairie. And it's the right in between year. So I don't, normally if it would have fallen like in the middle of that 5 years in a row for Henning, you could probably guess it was Henning. But I don't actually know. If I'm not mistaken, I got here in the 12-13 season. I got here in February of 2013. I'm coming up, by the way, on 12 years here at the station in February. That's when I got here. And Henning was, I believe, in the middle. I think that was year 2 of a 3-year straight run of Park Region Conference champs.
Sure.
So the next year would have been the 13-14 year. I believe that was the 3rd and final year. Those kids graduated. And then the boys, the Henning boys team, they struggled for a few years there. So if I were to put an educated guess on it, I would probably say Parkers Prairie won that year that's missing.
Okay.
So it's probably 12-11 advantage Henning going back to the 02-03 season.
I don't think Coach Andrew Johnson would mind, by the way, if you just gave him that extra one for the series,
Well, and I don't want to, I mean, now that I put it out, I shouldn't have guessed, but I did guess. I'm going to guess it's 12-11 all-time advantage Henning.
Sure. I mean, it's really fun when they're like that. When they're
stellar rivalry.
Back and forth. And by the way, the cherry on top to this rivalry was in 2019 when the Henning Hornets won Section 6A in just a battle with Parkers Prairie in the section championship game. And there's a lot of people in that Parkers Prairie community, I'm sure, that look and they go, Henning just barreled their way through that state tournament. We gave them the toughest test that year. And if we would have somehow been able to beat them, there's a good chance we could have been holding that trophy. Like, just the domino effect of that adds a layer to this rivalry. It's just a lot of fun.
It's the only year going back to that 02-03 season where they played each other twice. Parkers Prairie won by 3 in overtime in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They're right. I covered that state tournament. Parkers Prairie, whatever they think, hey, Panthers, I got your back. You're right. Whatever you think about that season,
I don't know if it makes them feel better or worse, though.
You were the second best team in the state that year.
Yeah.
I think it's that straightforward. I really do believe that.
I think they're sending the trophy from who did Henning beat in the state championship game that year?
Northwoods.
Yeah. Northwoods is giving that trophy. I think they're mailing it to Parkers. I think
Northwoods lost 3 straight championship games and ran into absolute juggernauts in all 3.
As you do when you're in a state championship game.
Minneapolis North was the first one.
Yeah.
Russell Tyler Ruthven, the second one. And Russell Tyler Ruthven was a carbon copy of what that Henning team was the next year. They just beat you to death defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Twin brothers, weird. Weird how that works, isn't it?
No, one's coming in, one's coming off. Wait, that guy just come right back in?
Yeah. 2 years in a row, they had to play a team with just a bunch of people who looked like each other. Poor Northwoods, they were so good. One of my favorite state tournament teams of all time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun that year. It adds an extra layer. It's going to be it's going to be a fun game as well. Henning has kind of gotten off to their good start this season, as they typically have in recent memory. I know that they had a close call against Norman County East Ulan Hitterdal on Tuesday, but they came away with the win, and they're a team that's still trying to find their identity. Obviously, losing Kale Misegatis for, if it's not this season, it's a lot of this season. And they're going to have to find a way to, it's not the fact that you lose a player. They all know how to play basketball. Those kids know how to score. They know how to do everything, but it's just trying to figure out how to operate things differently. Everybody kind of moves up a cog in the totem pole of like, what's your responsibility? How much points do we kind of need to expect out of you a game? Something. They're well coached in Henning. They're going to get the job done. They're still going to be towards the top of the park region and still have a good section title run, but they've spent a lot of this early part in the season just kind of trying to figure out who they are without one of their best players.
Yeah, it's a jolt to the system. And it's not, he's their best player. Kale's awesome, is an awesome basketball player. And it really stinks. And now it's not just losing the basketball player and having to relearn. I mean, these boys have played together for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. So they have a good understanding, and it's not just like filling in the spot in the roster. It's new responsibilities all of a sudden too, because Kale really controlled a lot of, he could control a game with his scoring and did a lot of scoring, but his like pace control, his tempo control is as good as you'll ever see in high school basketball, especially small school high school basketball. Kale's a wonderful basketball player. And, so there's just this, like, you have to relearn pace. You have to relearn responsibilities. You have to relearn, but also they're really talented. They were a deep roster with a lot of good players. Losing a player obviously hurts that depth a little bit. But their top guys who are going to be in the rotation are still pretty nice basketball players. There's just going to be who's going to control the pace, the effort, the tempo, whatever, because very few did do that better than Kale.
Right. So it'll be a good game tonight. Corey, one more time for the folks at home. What time, what place, what channel?
7:00 pregame, 7:15 first tip on 105.9 FM, the Superstation K106. I forgot for a second. Superstation K106 app, WadenaRadio.com. Booyah.
Booyah. A couple other notes across central Minnesota that we do need to get across before we talk about some state sports. If you go to Sports Cow, Moo, on Facebook, you'll see a few updates, mainly Monaga Braves head girls basketball coach Cody Pouliou. He got his 100th conference win as head coach of the Braves. So
that's a fast triple-digit number.
Very fast. And based on the way his teams have played in the Park region the last few years, yeah, I see the vision.
Correct.
I see the vision. And in not to be lost in the shuffle either, senior Mackenzie Anderson hit 1,000 points in their victory against Verndale earlier this week. So she also hit the 1,000-point milestone, which again, Monaga girls program has been pretty successful. She's been a big reason why. And just getting to that milestone is a cool achievement.
I knew it was coming because I actually saw Monaga earlier in the week against Staples Motley.
Mm-hmm.
I just now always ask coaches if there's a milestone or anything that we need to be aware of. So that way, when the game stops out of nowhere, I know what's going on.
Right.
And he goes, if Mackenzie scores 38 tonight, she'll get it. And then she didn't end up even needing to play that much in that game. So it wasn't going to happen. But yeah, I think she got it their very next game. She's awesome.
And going a little bit further south down Highway 71 in Sabika girls basketball, earlier in the week, they got a victory over the Henning Hornets 73-44. But Annika Poole, you got the 1,000 career point milestone where she scored 2 points in the game. It's another big milestone.
Big day for the Poulious, by the way.
Big day.
Niece, Annika is Cody's niece, I believe.
It's going to be a good Christmas for them when they meet.
I think Cody and Annika's dad are brothers.
Sure.
Oh, man, I'm going to get roasted for this if I got it wrong.
Now, your phone's going to blow up after we put this out.
I believe that's correct. Anyway, Merry Christmas to the Poulious, apparently.
One more 1,000-point scorer in Park Region Conference girls basketball this week. On Tuesday night in my game against Wadena Deer Creek against Bertha Hewitt, Addie Gravel, a senior, got her 1,000th career point. She needed 20 points to get the milestone. She had 9 at halftime, needed 11. She got it, and she was able to hit the milestone. 20 points even. Her night was done. Wadena Deer Creek rolled, and she got the milestone. She got the victory. Coach Cressup obviously had some good words to say about her and the things she's done for that program, obviously. So another big milestone there for her to hit. Getting to call that game too. And again, I didn't have a chance to talk with Coach Cressup pregame, just with running around, and just wasn't able to catch up with him before the game to get that heads up. But you're up on the walking track, and you just get some heads up from people every once in a while, and get told by Mark Johnson that Addie Gravel is really close to 1,000.
Sure.
And he goes and finds the number for me, and I can just sit there, and now all of a sudden you're ready. Now all of a sudden you're ready for that call, and it's really cool for her to hit that milestone. So congrats to her, and congrats to the team. One other thing that we need to mention, again, girls basketball, Section 8AA girls basketball news. Perham alum Maya Morris was this week's UMAC women's basketball player for the Martin Luther Knights.
Beautiful. New Orleans, Minnesota. You ever been to the Glockenspiel?
No, I have not been.
You ever seen Herman the German?
No.
You ever been to Flandreau State Park?
No.
How about the Fastenal?
No. My only experience with New Ulm is my parents one time watched the movie Newentown, which featured the tapioca in New Ulm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you must have drove right outside there, though, when you went to state softball a couple times, right?
Oh, yeah. I was in the area, but, I never actually was able to turn in town there. I just went around there.
One of my very good friends in high school was grew up in New Ulm and then moved to Sibley East. But shout out Ryan Kelly.
All right. That's the second person in the show with the last name Kelly and a first initial R that you've brought up on this show.
That's a great point.
Let's hang the banner.
They are not associated with each other.
No, legally, I think we need to make sure we put that out there.
Friend R. Kelly that I was friends with.
Minnesota Timberwolves last night, they got skunked by the Knicks.
Did I ever tell you about my friend Sean Combs?
No, you have not. And for legal reasons, I think maybe you should just keep that one to yourself.
Entrepreneur.
Is that it?
That'd be awesome if I had a friend named Sean Combs.
I had a good friend, spent a lot of breakfast with them. They were H combs for honeycombs. Had a lot of that breakfast. You ever remember, I used to actually like honeycombs every once in a while. You didn't like want it all the time, but like you were just kind of craving it. You'd like get this big bowl of cereal with it. And I always remember the marketing campaign that they had. It was so strange when I was a kid. It was early 2000s, and Honeycomb had, for their sponsoring, they basically just had like some kind of weird monstrosity CGI image of like either like a person or like some kind of weird animal going berserk and just basically yelling, "Me want honeycomb," every time, like freaking out. And it always, as a kid, like it didn't scare me, but every time I was like, what is the energy in this commercial? Like it is just weirdly in your face, weirdly whatever. I don't want to look back on it, because if you look back on some of the bad CGI in commercials, it'll make you just kind of cringe a little. But that guy definitely existed and haunts my nightmares. So
I haven't had honeycomb in a long time, and if you offered me a bowl right now, I'd accept it.
I'd accept it too. How about Honey Smacks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Name the bad cereal for you. Yes. Cookie Crisp. Yeah, count me in.
Who ever heard of cookies for breakfast, man? That was another commercial tagline. Lucky Charms was also up there. Reese's Puffs, man. You couldn't beat a good bowl of Reese's Puffs.
We just finished off our box of Reese's Puffs. Like, what day is it today? Friday? Maybe like Monday.
Speaking of cereal commercials, there was always the one where it was like you'd eat Reese's Puffs and like it'd be like, it's like early 2000s. So there's like some dude with baggy clothes and a big boombox with a hat like you're wearing, and just comes into the room, and they just start chanting Reese's Puffs to like their beatboxing, and it's and they just do the peanut butter chocolatey flavor, except when they look into the camera and they do flavor, they kind of went like flavor, and it just these are burned into my head because I watched a lot of television as a kid, and once you know it, turns out marketing people target their ads towards children.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. We didn't have Kicks. I thought Kicks were bad because they were just like plain.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But they had to like a mixed berry or something like that.
That's good.
Underrated.
You ever when you have time, look up Donald Glover's stand-up bit, Kicks. He talks about that with his parents. It's a great stand-up bit. I can't say much of it here, but it's a great one to remember.
Okay.
All right. Wolves got skunked last night. Karl Anthony Towns got his revenge game. I want to look at his stat line for sure.
20.
Yeah. 32 points, 20 rebounds.
Yeah.
Killed him last night. Killed him. And you know what? He made his hero's return. Everybody welcomed him back. Nobody booed him. He had a good game. Here's the thing. Timberwolves fans got it right. They cheered Karl Anthony Towns when he came back. Hey, welcome back, man. Not your fault. You left. Like, that was not up to you. Welcome back. And then Tibbs was mentioned, and then they booed the ever-living Jesus out of him.
Good.
So
good
priorities. That being said, Tibbs and his crew smashed the Wolves. And by the way, here's another Tibbs anecdote. The Timberwolves were trailing 109-74 with about 10 minutes left in the game. Corey, with about 8 minutes left in the game, was Karl Anthony Towns still on the floor?
Of course he was.
Of course he was. Because why would Tibbs pull his starters?
Was Jalen on the floor still?
You bet he was.
The rest of the game, did they play 48 minutes or whatever the number is again?
I want to look this up.
I bet they did. Maybe not that many, but I bet it was like 45 or something. Something stupid. I have nothing good to say about Tibbs.
Nothing good in the slightest.
He's a good coach for other teams. I'm glad he's not the coach of my favorite team.
You know what? He can coach. I think there's probably a subgroup of people that like him. There's probably certain players and coaches that like him. I'm sure maybe he's a nice guy behind the scenes, but yeah, not the way things worked out. Not great. Nope. And it leads people to consternation, Corey. Was the Karl Anthony Towns trade a mistake? Go.
Nope. Next question. No, a year to date ago, every single person on the planet Earth was talking about, like, when is it going to be time to get rid of Karl? Not because he's bad. This conversation has never been because he's a bad player.
Right.
Now there have been like, is he the right fit? Is he ever going to get over the hump? Is he that sort of guy? Like there were some personal quirks to him that were always questioned, but it was never about if he was good or bad. He's always been good. But man, oh man, that guy's making so much money. He was never going to be a Timberwolf long-term beyond, the almost decade he played with the Wolves in the first place. It wasn't going to happen. It was financially a near impossibility to keep him on that roster. This trade had to happen, and they traded a good player. New York got a good player out of the deal. This has never been what this is about. It's never been about if Karl Anthony Towns isn't good, we need to get rid of him. Is he a right fit? And he's so dang expensive. We can't make other pieces fit because of this.
Right. And that's really the crux of this argument. You were having 3 guys on a max contract. And once Ant signed his max, Rudy Gobert was already getting paid a lot of money. Cat was on a max. There's just no way. There was no way you could have made it work and not also drained all of your depth, because you need to keep guys like Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Naz Reid signed that contract. The moment Naz Reid signed that extension, it was all but certain Karl Anthony Towns was not going to be a Timberwolf for very long. Like all of that was in place, and that's a CBA thing. That's a whatever thing. That's a whatever. The Wolves had to operate within the system. Now you could say, well, the Wolves could have afforded Cat this year, so why didn't they run it again? Because they felt. Here's the other thing. Towns is a good player. He did a lot of good stuff last year. He missed time. He was hurt. And he's been hurt the last few years. And also, the Wolves are cleaning it's a little bit of book cleaning because Randall's an expiring contract. And everybody's mad because Julius Randle has had watching him on defense is not ideal. He is constantly not paying attention. Like, if you watch stuff, he always gets beat. It's concerning.
Do you want to know, though, who is the exact same player from last year to this year? Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle. They're the same players. It's just that when you're in New York, people couldn't stop talking about how explosive and dynamic Julius Randle is. And now they can't stop talking about how important of a cog Karl Anthony Towns can be to a basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And in Minnesota, you kind of just wither.
Right.
Not what's actually happening on the floor. Julius Randle's no different than who he was.
Right.
But you're right. He's got some things that he needs to learn that Karl was doing.
Right. And in
particular,
right. In all of this, and here's the other thing we've been saying. I know it's almost Christmas, but it's still not Christmas yet. And we are still working on some.
He brought me popcorn.
How did you get that?
Movie theater popcorn.
You got cozy theater popcorn?
Yes, go ahead. Continue your point.
Well, no. You got to explain how this came in motion.
He had popcorn and I ate like 7 handfuls of it. And then he was like, do you want it more? And I go, no, because I'll eat it. And then he brought it in here. So I'm going to eat it. Shout out Cozy Theater.
Cozy Theater popcorn, man. It is
a lot of shout outs on the MSD today.
Uh-huh. You know what? Cozy Theater popcorn is really good. And then
shout out?
Cozy Theater popcorn. That's my shout out. I'll do it again. I gave a shout out to Laura Ingalls Wilder. That was my shout out.
Oh, you did. That's right. And Nessie. We forgot, or Peppy, I mean.
Pepin.
Maiden Rock and Peppy. The lake monster and Lake Pepin. Peppy, the lake monster.
Yeah, there's nothing to Stockholm. In that neck of the woods. No Alma, whatever the heck it is. Who cares? That part of the world. No Wabasha. Wabasha. Red Wing.
Home of grumpy old men.
Mm-hmm. And grumpy old men too. All of this to say, look, I mean, this is so tired. There's a lot of Wolves fans that wanted Cat off the roster last year that now that they traded him are now whining. And here's the thing. I miss Cat as like a player, as a personality. He was fun. He also had flaws in his game that people brought up, and he played a great game. He's also capable. He was also equally capable last night of fouling 3 times within the first 5 minutes of gameplay.
Yep.
That's also in play. He just did the other end of the spectrum last night. That's fine. They play in the East. Who cares? It's going to be okay. The Wolves got their own issues to work out, mainly just as an offensive unit, but they'll figure it out. And the defense generally has been good. They've won 6 out of their last 8. It's still give this thing time, man. If it's another month from now and they're still kind of waffling at 500 and inconsistent, then we can be concerned like we were a couple of years ago. But as of right now, we talked about this before we hit record. We expected this team, even before the Cat trade, to have a worse record than they did a year ago, and that didn't mean they were a worse team. It just means that not every year you're going to lead the Western Conference. Not every year.
You've said this a lot, and I really like the term, and I steal it regularly when I talk to other people. But the other team often has agency too. As a matter of fact, not even often, they always have agency in the outcome of these games.
Right.
Because your favorite team wins doesn't mean they're awesome. And just because they lose, it doesn't mean they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what it means is that the other team just did some stuff. And was this Carl's return? And did the Timberwolves want to snuff out that return and kind of stomp that out and back at the Target Center? Sure. But did Carl come in here wanting to play exceptionally well? Did the entire New York Knicks team want to come in and embarrass Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo? Yeah, of course. Of course. They had something to play for as well. And it's not like Julius Randle and DDV haven't been talking smack throughout this whole thing.
You might have Tibbs and Brunson fighting DiVincenzo in midcourt.
Right. So this is not like, it's not like they didn't have anything going for them either. That counts in all of this.
And the Knicks are a good team.
And they're good.
They're good. It's fine. It's fine. Everybody just quit freaking out for 5 seconds. Christmas is 5 days away. Corey's getting cozy theater popcorn. We just got to accept the little things in life, you know?
Thankful for the cozy theater this Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Thankful for the Minnesota Vikings, who are keeping the Minnesota sports scene sane.
Ooh.
They play the Seattle Seahawks this weekend. They have not won in Seattle, Corey, since 2006.
Who the heck even is the quarterback for Seattle? And
Matt Hasselbeck?
God, is Matt? That might even be before Matt Hasselbeck.
No, because that was the year they went to the Super Bowl.
06,
06, somewhere in there.
So they beat Matt Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander.
Yeah, I think it was the year after they went to the Super Bowl, because it was 05 they went, and then 06 was the Colts. That's but I believe it was Chester Taylor was the leading rusher for the Vikings in that game.
Oh, so the next year they drafted Adrian?
Yeah, I think it was the next year. But yeah, that's the last time they've won in Seattle. A lot of it spanned over the Russell Wilson era and when the Seahawks were literally the best they've ever been as a franchise, with the Legion of Boom and everything going on with them. But it's just hard to play on the West Coast, as the Vikings have learned. They have not had a ton of success going out west, but it's going to be rainy. It's going to be a slog. Geno Smith, who was hurt in Sunday night's game and they're whooping by the Packers, they have had him be a full participant. The Vikings look to get Stephon Gilmore back. Now, how healthy is Brian O'Neill? Harrison Smith's been a little banged up this week. There's a couple injury things, but borderline, the Vikings are a better team than the Seahawks. I expect them to come out and win. Geno Smith is fun. He can make some plays. I think Seattle's offensive line is not good, so the Vikings will be able to take advantage of that. I think the only thing is if Seattle's receivers, who are good, have a big day against the Vikings, that'd probably be the only way they could stop them. Mm-hmm. But like Sam Darnold, Geno Smith is a former Jets quarterback who is on his third or fourth team, found a home, and can make some nice throws, but also make some throws that make you go, where were you aiming? Mm-hmm. And the Vikings will just probably be the beneficiary of more of those throws.
Got to get at him, though. If you're not going to get after him, their receiving core is very good, and that's not an exactly ideal matchup for the Vikings secondary. Yeah, I think the Vikings will win. I pick them to win.
Right. When they're 12-2, it's hard to go, well, I mean, there's a slip up game coming. I mean, we could see that happen. I mean, Seattle's a team that's fighting for their playoff lives. They lost to the Packers last week. The Rams now hold that.
Got killed by the Packers.
They got killed on Sunday. They got embarrassed on national television. So there is going to be a bounce back from them. They are going to be motivated. They lost their first place spot to the Rams, and they, unless Washington loses down the stretch, they need to win the division to stay in the playoffs. So
and Washington is going to lose down the stretch. They play Philadelphia, I think, this week.
We need Washington to beat Philly to make sure they kind of stay away from that 1 seed chase.
Not gonna happen.
Put your faith in the commies.
There's other games. I don't know what Philly has the
means of offensive production.
Right.
And so on and so forth. I think it's a win. Seattle's been a tough place. It's not been ideal, although their home crowd is not as good as it's been. Turns out everybody talks about home crowd advantages, but when your team's not as good, the crowd's weirdly not good.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
But people won't shut up about how great it is, and the rain and the Starbucks coffee and the fish market and Grey's Anatomy and iCarly. Take your pick.
Did you know that the original Starbucks logo, is that like a mermaid or something?
I think it's supposed to be, yeah.
On the original Starbucks, I think it's the only place that exists. It's in Seattle. The mermaid has nipples.
You're probably right.
I am right.
I'm not Googling it, is my point.
It's in one place. It's in Seattle, like the original Starbucks store.
Okay.
Just as FYI. Shout out Starbucks.
Shout out Starbucks.
Shout out Eddie Vedder. Shout out my uncle who lives in Seattle.
Oh, well, that's good. Good. Is he going to the game?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think so. My uncle and aunt and cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out the Japanese botanical gardens where they got married.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds like a cool place, actually. That's
a much more wholesome story than the thing I told about Starbucks.
Yes, it is. One last thing, since we kind of wrapped up our Vikings talk, it's pretty straightforward. They got to win to stay alive for the 1 seed. They control their own destiny, yada, yada, yada. One last thing. We just got to get to this news before it becomes irrelevant. Matt and Justin Ishbia, who currently Matt is the majority owner of the Phoenix Suns.
Yep.
And his brother Justin, who owns 20% of the Suns. Matt owns 80%. They're both super loaded. They're both young guys. They both love sports. Matt Ishbia played basketball at Michigan State, and Justin Ishbia didn't play collegiate baseball, but he's a big baseball guy. There are talks that they are one of the names that have popped up in the quest to buy the Minnesota Twins from the Pohlad family. I just got to tell you, it's tough to gauge because you never know what an owner is going to be like. You never know whatever. If you're a Twins fan, that'd be a very ideal scenario for them to buy the team.
Well, you certainly don't know what the Pohlads are going to do because no matter what, that decision will probably be disappointing, a la what Glenn Taylor's doing. That being said, I've not heard any other names.
Right.
So if it's going to be anybody, it's totally fine that it's the Ishbias.
Right. And look, you can say, well, Matt Ishbia came in and they traded for Kevin Durant, and that's a big splash, but how's that worked out for him? So, we'll talk about those moves if that ever happens down the line. But what it would be is the thing that's different is these people have money, whereas Laurie and Rodriguez didn't quite have the assets right away. These guys have money. I think each of them separately are worth more than the Pohlad family. Like, those guys are loaded. And basically the theory is that like Justin Ishbia would be like the main guy, like Matt is for the Suns. And like Justin owns 20% of the Suns, Matt would own 20% of the Twins. Like, whatever. That's logistics. The thing that would make me excited about a potential, and nothing is imminent, nothing is whatever. This sale is going to take at least 6 months. Like, we're not going to know until like the All-Star break what's really happening in Major League Baseball for the Twins. But the thing that makes the Ishbias intriguing owners is they're loaded, they're young, they're aggressive, they are from the Midwest. Justin talked about going to like 30 straight Detroit Tigers home openers with his dad or something like that. Like, those guys love baseball. His companies that he works for primarily is based in Chicago. So that's good. But when you look at what they're doing with the Suns, they just released something, Corey, where they slashed concessions price. Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
They're hot dogs, water, popcorn. They cut them all. They're like, Matt Ishbia put out a tweet and said, I'm sick and tired of families going to things and having to spend $100 to eat. We're slashing prices on concessions. It's like $2 for a hot dog at a Suns game. It's because turns out
it's a hot dog.
You'll make money. Like, people go, but yeah, they're like, we can make money if we gouge them for pricing here. But turns out more families will come to games and eat at your ballpark.
Not a commodity. Just chill out. It's a hot dog.
Right. Exactly. And you know what else they did? They also had Bally down in Arizona, and they got into disputes with them. You know what Justin Ishbia did, or Matt Ishbia did? He said, bleep it. we're putting games on local television and we're eating the cost because it's important to build a fan base that they can watch TV. He didn't care about the $30 million. $30 million to a multi-billionaire is a rounding error. Like that guy's like, we'll take the hit right now because for the we'll figure out the TV situation. But for the long-term future of this team, it's important that people watch our games.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple. So it's that kind of stuff that would make, it's not even about the on-field baseball moves.
But it is.
But also the fact that just having ownership that is of the Twins are so short-term thinking with all of their financial decisions that it's maddening because.
Well, here's the thing. I will go to a good Twins team at Target Field. I will go watch a good and be like, all right, I guess I'll eat the cost of this burger basket that I'm going to get.
Right.
Because I want to go watch this good baseball team. But high prices at a concession stand will make you not go watch a bad baseball team.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to drive all the way down there and pay $12, $16 for a hot dog and fries and a beer. I'm not doing that. Right. That is ridiculous. It's a waste of everybody's time. But like, if it's, for $5, you can get a hot dog and chips and a pop or something and a Gatorade and watch a baseball game in a beautiful June day. Yeah, let's go. That sounds fun.
It should be noted the Twins do have like a reduced price concession stand, straight away center field. It is nice. There is like now the items are smaller. They are whatever. So there is that in a little form at Target Field. So I will give them credit for that. That does exist, but it's
bring on the HBS. Let's do it.
Yeah. Come on. Buy the Twins. Let's do it. Let's just do that. All right. That's pretty much all there is. There's not a ton of discourse because it's ownership stuff. It's all business. Whatever. There's a chance that they sell it to somebody else, but it'd be fun. That'd be a fun one to talk about. So it'd be better than Glenn Taylor pivoting and buying the Twins or something like that.
Let's go to a party.
All right. This has been the Morning Sports Desk. We'll see you guys next time.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.